Welcome to episode 131 of the Wise Guys Sports Show here on the Wise Guys YouTube channel and the JC Blue Note 24 Sports Note Twitch page. I'm one of your hosts, JC Blue Note Jim Crinity. And without any further ado, I'm going to bring in my co-host, Mr. Mike Martinez, Mr. Big Rican himself. Michael, how you doing tonight?
Well, it was a very good Sunday, James. We went to the park early with the little man, and we had a great day. And then the Mets traded Brandon Nimmo, and I wanted to start throwing hands.
When don't you?
Usually it's about that fucking team that I usually want to start throwing hands with people. But big tease for again on the 30th. We will have the first Big Rican on Sports podcast episode since February of 2023 when I moved down here. And just so everybody knows, this will not be on the Big Rican channel. After today, it's going to get vile, so it's going to be on here.
which will not actually count towards our shows because Michael you and I talked about it literally just before we went on the air. As of tonight, there are only 4 episodes left. We'll lay things out when we get ready to close up what we've got tonight. We're going to see you guys later on this week. As a matter of fact, I can even actually throw that out here now. We're going to see you guys Friday night for our annual rivalry week episode for college football. So it's pretty much going to be mostly college football. We'll talk a little bit about the Thanksgiving Day games. This will be the last time we get to see you guys before going into the long holiday weekend for most everybody. And then we've got the first Saturday, we've got the first Sunday in December, and then we wrap up. I want to say it's on the 14th with our holiday free for all, and that's just basically just tomfoolery, shenanigans, and hijinks.
Well, you figure the first episode in December, we're going to have to break down conference championship games. As right before during that day before we go on the air, the CFP 12 team bracket will be set, and the following week we'll have Army Navy and a preview of the other games, and then the stupidity, and we're off until
mid-January.
The first weekend in January.
Typically we're off until we're typically off until what? Usually conference championship in the NFL.
No, we usually come back the week before that just because
for divisionals,
for divisionals, because now with the way the playoffs in the NFL are going, we're always back by my birthday, and that's right around then. Which the amount of shit we'll have to break down then, dude. You figure the playoff will be done. We'll just have the championship game left. We'll have really heading into the All-Star break for the NBA. We'll have obviously the playoffs in the NFL going. So our hiatus comes at a great time because it's family, it's holidays. But then when we get back, we got to ramp up and we got to dive right into the world that we cover.
And then we're not going to be able to talk hockey all that much because then the hockey is going to kind of take a back seat because then we're gearing up a couple of weeks after we come back for the Olympics in early February.
Exactly. And the hilarious thing is, as I realized I couldn't see you very well out of these glasses, I still haven't got the new lenses put in yet. Um, what I realized exactly.
Michael Magoo.
Hey, you're there. Um, uh, but really, one thing I've noticed, we're one of the few who covers the Olympics when they're going on. I think we have an illness.
I mean, they're just so entertaining because by the thing is that when we get up first thing in the morning, we're gonna be able to put on live coverage, and then we're gonna be able to come home and watch since they're 6 or 7 hours ahead over there in Italy. We're gonna be able to watch recap coverage all night long. Sometimes until we could wake up in the middle of the night if we wanted to for 18 days and be able to watch all night coverage on USA or NBC all night or on Peacock if you have it.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm not the biggest Winter Olympics guy. I love the downhill. I love the bobsled, but I grew up on Cool Runnings. Who doesn't love the bobsled, having grown up on Cool Runnings? Um, Obviously the hockey, both men and women, and believe it or not, curling.
Love curling.
My old man got me into that, and I there are certain things that he'll get me into that I'm like, yeah, Dad, really? This one I truly enjoy. There's nothing quite like watching four people use a broom more efficiently than most people at home do. On
It's and the only problem I really have with the Winter Olympics is that, the one that typically gets the most coverage is the one that, yes, it is a sport, but me, I've got a very big problem with sports that are like where the outcome is judged. So that's why I typically have a problem with gymnastics, and figure skating. So
yeah,
it athletic ability, absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. But it's like there's got to be a winner and a loser, not what a judge sees.
somebody put up a meme of the Iron Bowl with the Alabama logo on Nancy Kerrigan and the Auburn logo on Tanya Harding.
We'll be able to break that one down on Friday because because I don't think it's gonna go that way, but we'll see now.
No, I honestly don't think they're going to be able to Gillooly Alabama, but I just thought that was funny. Trash either way. Um, so what do you say we jump right into the hat trick there, sir, and we get through a loaded week, another loaded week in the sports world?
It's the three biggest topics in the world of sports from the last week. Get ready for the Wise Guys hat trick.
So we've got rivalries coming up next weekend, and like I said, we'll be with you guys on Friday night. But how are we going to be able to get to those four big championship games coming up the week that we're back, Michael? So as you can see, the paths to Atlanta for the SEC, Indianapolis for the Big Ten, Dallas for the Big 12, and Charlotte for the ACC. Now, granted, with the way that the polls have come out, the ACC's in big trouble of kind of getting left behind, much like the Big 12 was last year. So as we run this through, as you can see, Ohio State did take one of Indiana's uh, uh, first place votes because Indiana was off this week, and you saw Oregon climb up. The only reason why it's saying Mississippi and Texas Tech dropped a spot because remember last week Oregon and Mississippi were tied for sixth. Now there's an actual split there, so naturally Oregon comes up when Mississippi State, Texas Tech go down. But Michael, I'm a little surprised, even though my Mizzou Tigers um, completely, dropped off and didn't even show up. I'm surprised that Oklahoma didn't come up higher than 8 this week.
I'm not. I think the committee is not the AP, and then I believe the committee will do this as well. They are still being held with their feet to the fire for Texas. I mean, that was a game where Oklahoma just did not show up. I will say I think Ohio State took one of Indiana's number ones because yes, it was Rutgers. I understand that, but they still put up almost 50 points without Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith.
It's
Um,
yeah, but at this particular point, we actually I'm gonna throw a little bit of shade, but let's also be honest, it's legit that this was what you call outside of one or two games, this was cupcake week. So you
it
had
was.
teams playing one double A schools. You had Ohio State playing a back end of the Big Ten school. Indiana was off for the week. So,
Yeah, no,
you know,
I agree with you.
somebody threw the comment out there. Can we get rid of Cupcake Week this late in the season? And then somebody said, well, if that's the case, can you throw out just about 80% of Ohio State's schedule this year? I understand you play who's on your schedule, but I completely agree lining up all these tune-up games late in the year before your rivalry game, it's gotta stop. It's gotta go.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with you on one point. Number one, no one saw Penn State being this bad. So you're talking about a team opened up against the number one team in the country with 16 new starters. And then a few weeks later, we're playing against a team that everybody had picked to win the national title in Penn State. No one knew Franklin was going to get fired, and no one knew they were going to be this bad. So right there, you take two games off of their list. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Ohio State doesn't make their schedule once you get to Big Ten season. The only games you put on your schedule are out of conference. Once you get to Big Ten season, or conference season in general, the conference makes your schedule. So you want to say get rid of Cupcake Week? I am with you 100%. It's the SEC that doesn't play its conference the week before rivalry week. They're
Although
the ones
you had
playing
Oklahoma and
Stanford.
Mizzou in a top 25 matchup.
Oh, yes, but those are two teams that started in the Big 12. Let's throw that there. There are also two teams that prefer to load their schedule with their non-conference at the beginning, like everybody who's normal. Because you had Georgia played Charlotte, Bama played or Northern Illinois, somebody played Sanford. I mean, come on, give it a fucking rest. Yes, every conference has top tier and lower tier teams. You want to go there? Texas played Arkansas. They're 2-9. At least Ohio State played a 500 team. So, not for nothing. A little bit different. I'm not, and I'm not being a homer.
Barely 500.
They're 5-5. That's 500. They won half their games. They lost half their games. That's 500.
Barely.
It's not barely. It's not barely. It's 500. It's like going 81-81 in baseball or 41-41 in hockey or basketball. You're 500. I'm really surprised I did all that math real quick. I really am. Not gonna lie to you.
Damn brush kids.
Yeah, I know. So it's that Common Core New York shit. So you want to do the Cupcake Week? I am with you 100%. You know I don't like when they play dog shit teams. Jim, I'm getting jacked up because they got Bama in a couple years. They got 2 against Bama, and then in 2030 they start their home and home against Georgia. I am jacked up about that. It's 2025. But at the same time, you don't get to choose who you play in conference. Because I'm sure if it was up to Ryan Day and his staff and Ross Bjork, the AD, they would play Michigan State every year. Say they're great, but they would play Michigan State every year. They would play Northwestern more. They would have played Indiana this year. Oh my God, I know these boys wanted a shot at Indiana earlier than the championship game. If they get there,
They're going to end up having to go on the road against them in 2 weeks because Indiana's going to roll over Purdue for the Old Oaken Bucket on
they're going to light the
Saturday.
Oaken Bucket on fire. It's going to be ugly. Is that in Bloomington or is that in?
That's in Bloomington, which actually
Yeah,
means they get to hoist it in their home stadium and then just basically go right up the interstate to a home game in front of a very, very partisan Indiana crowd.
absolutely. I mean, obviously, the conference championship games, they sell half tickets to each school. So it will be loud for. Come on, dude! It got loud for Wisconsin when they play there. It gets loud for Northwestern when they play there. So it's the conference championship games because it's a neutral site. Yes, it's not going to be a neutral site game because Indiana.
Yeah, but let's also remember they do half and half for student sections and families. So you figure if that stadium holds 65,000, you've got what, maybe 15,000 per each. So it's not like, and then everything else is going to basically be general admission. So you're going to have a bunch of sponsors and a bunch of Indianapolis fans, Colts fans, Purdue
Yeah,
fans, and everyone jamming that stadium. So it's going to be probably a 60-40 Indiana, to Ohio State crowd. Uh, but again, we've still got to get there. So let's
exactly. We've got to get there.
so let's talk about it. So the scenario is that Indiana and Ohio State control their destiny. If they both win next week, they're both going to Indianapolis. If Ohio State loses for the fifth straight year and Oregon wins, it's Oregon taking their spot. And Ohio State, I would actually have to say, for as being for being number one, they get knocked out of a bye.
Oh no, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. The only way the Buckeyes go into the playoff with a loss and get a bye is if they lose a close game in the Big Ten title game to Indiana. If you lose on a field goal at the last second, and you played even 1-2, you're not going to get kicked out of the bye. I don't care what conference championship game that is. And actually, I think Michigan goes to the Big Ten championship game if they beat Ohio State. I think that's what I read. Because
From what I read, the only way that Michigan gets in is they need to beat Ohio State, and they need either an Oregon or an Indiana loss on top of it.
Okay. So if everybody who's favored this coming weekend holds serve, we're looking at really, well, never mind, really, for the first time ever, the Big Ten championship game is 1-2. I mean, that's just a big one. Jim, real quick, final in Cleveland.
I just got it.
20 Clippers 105. So we're going to go more extensively into the Big Ten on Friday because obviously with, excuse me, the hate that you have and the fanaticism that I have, that's really going to be the main focus of our show on Friday night is what's going to go on in Ann Arbor on Saturday. Let's talk about Atlanta because that is a lot more convoluted.
So as we stand right now, Texas A&M 11-0, 7-0 in the SEC. They control their own destiny. So they will finish at number 17 Texas, and we will preview that game extensively. We
Yes.
might actually preview that game just as much, if not a little bit more, than the Ohio State Michigan game because of everything that's going to be surrounding it and how many different dominoes could end up falling out of that game. Elsewhere in the, we've got Georgia sitting at 7-1, Ole Miss sitting at 6-1, and then Alabama at also at 6-1. Texas, ironically enough, they need a lot of help here. If Georgia, now here's the thing: if you're Georgia, Georgia finishes at Georgia Tech, so so their conference schedule is done. Ole Miss gets Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl on Saturday, and then Alabama will actually have the Iron Bowl, and that game's going to be in Auburn, where they're going to be heavily favored, with Auburn being 5-6 on the season. So Texas A&M has got everything to, even if Texas A&M loses, they still have a shot to get in. I think it's also because of the fact that Georgia, their conference slate is done. So Georgia cannot help or hinder their cause any further. Mississippi, I think, runs over Mississippi State, and it's going to be that Iron Bowl really kind of hinging on everything. But there's a part of me that thinks right now that, with the way that they've shown that they can win close games, that they can come from behind, I still feel that Texas A&M is the best team overall in the country right now. Ohio State might be the most dominant with the way that they pick their teams apart, but Texas A&M has shown it time and time again against much better competition that they are battle ready.
So much better competition is a team that's won 4 games because that's the team they were down 32. South Carolina is not a good team. Lenora Sellers is a great player. The rest of the team is trash. They are under 500.
I understand that. I understand.
But here's the thing: you got to call it down the middle.
But they go into Notre Dame, they win. They host Auburn, they win. They were down early to Florida. They come back and dominate. They go into Death Valley and they roll over LSU. They go into Como and they roll over Mizzou. They actually are down massive to a South Carolina team that, yes, is only 4-7, but also had a Heisman Trophy preseason favorite who we understand is played down to down to his competition, but it's still the fact that they shut out a team that they were getting rolled over by in the second half, flipped the switch and won that game, and then still had a chance to lose it late, and their defense came up huge. And if they go out and they beat Texas, who got themselves back into in the coaches poll back into the top 15 for falling out after being the number one team in the country, I think it still loads up on their resume a little bit better because if they win the SEC championship as well, I think you've got to put them as a number one seed.
If whoever wins the Big Ten is going to be the number one seed because they're playing 1 versus 2 in the Big Ten championship game, if everything holds serve. Let me say this. Yes, A&M's done all those things. 4 of those teams are under 500. So when your resume is looked at on the last day, yes, you have wins at LSU and South Carolina and this one and that one. When their combined record is basically 500, I'm sorry, that's not as good as what people say it is. And the only reason people say it's good is because it's the SEC. So can we stop with the biased bullshit right now? Because that's what it is. Now, if they go out and lay an egg, because let me say this. If they get down like that to Texas, Texas ain't South Carolina. And Sark will put his foot on their neck.
Right.
So which team shows up is my question. Is that game in Austin or is that game
in Austin? Yes.
Yeah. You get down on the road to Texas. Fuck you. You're losing. Sorry. And then if Texas wins, that's fucking chaos, dude. I don't want A&M to lose because I'm a Buckeye fan. I want A&M to lose to see the SEC basically eat its young.
So let's shift to Dallas now. Texas Tech is 7-1. BYU is 7-1. Utah and Arizona State are both 6-2. So Texas Tech will control their own destiny as they're going to finish up their season at West Virginia, and then BYU is going to get they're hosting UCF on Saturday, and UCLF is a 5-6 team, whereas West Virginia is a 4-7 team. So both of these teams basically look like they're going to be able to punch their ticket to Jerry's world. And with Texas Tech sitting in, sitting at 7 and BYU sitting at 11, it's going to be very, very interesting because Texas Tech has still got an outside shot of if they can roll this weekend and get to Dallas, there's still an outside shot to be able to get a bye and sneak up into the top 5.
If Texas Tech wins the Big 12, now mind you, if everybody holds serve, it's a rematch of really, dude. It's a rematch of a game that Texas Tech smoked BYU. Smoked them. I will say it's very tough to beat a team twice in the same year. We see it in the NFL all the time in divisional games. We have seen it in different conferences with conference championship games. It's not easy to beat a team twice in the same year, let alone twice in 6 weeks. And that's basically what they would have to do with BYU. But if Texas Tech wins out, they win the next 2, they would end up being the 4 or the 3. Because I think whoever wins the Big Ten championship is going to be the 1. Whoever wins the SEC is going to be the 2. Your 3 and 4 are going to be the loser of the Big Ten championship game and the Big 12 champion. Because unfortunately, and I say this kind of tongue in cheek, whoever loses the SEC is either going to be a 2 or 3 loss team. You're not sticking a 2 or 3, and I'm sorry if they do this, don't ever talk to me about bias again. You're not putting a 2-loss non-conference champion in as a team getting a bye when you have a one-loss conference champion that smoked a team and then smoked them again.
Because we
With
have the AP rankings up here. That's what we go
yes.
by because those come out on Sundays. But keep
Mhm.
in mind that the Red Raiders are sitting right now in the 5 seed in the CFP playoff. And look at their resume. They go into Utah, they smoked them. They go into Houston the very next week. They smoked them. Utah is 6-2 in the conference and still has an outside shot to get to Dallas as well. They need BYU to lose, and then they need to win the Holy War. Um, Houston is also Houston's 5-3. Houston cannot get mathematically to Dallas, but Houston is also an 8-win team. Their lone loss was on the road late in a come from behind game against Arizona State. They go into Oklahoma State. That's not a huge deal because Oklahoma State's 1-10. Kansas State, they win big in that one. Kansas State looking to get bowl eligible. They host BYU and smoked them. So, I mean, they've got a very, very good resume that, yes, on their schedule, it shows that they've only beat two currently ranked teams. But you look at who they've beaten, they beat the second place team, the third place team, lost, very late to the fourth place team, and then beat the fifth place team all in their conference this year.
Yeah, Texas Tech has a good resume. Jim, resume to me with these teams, you have to talk about the rank they were at the time of the games, and you have to see what the teams they played do with that um, the last ranking with the CFP. And I know we use the AP because again, it comes out on Sundays, and CFP is what, Tuesdays?
Right.
Stupidest damn thing I ever heard. So yeah, it's definitely important the ranked teams you play outside of, I'm sorry, the preseason rankings, which are shit. But at the same time, look and see when people talk about strength of record and strength of schedule, look and see what the numbers are the last day. Because now you're going to have teams in the top 5 that the combined schedule of the teams they played this year, the majority of them are going to be under 500 when you combine the schedules.
And here's the ironic thing is that when you look overall, Utah right now sitting there at 12. They're 6-2 overall, 9-2 in the conference. And Utah, with a loss by either one of those teams, and if they win the Holy War, Utah, remember, lost to Texas Tech and lost to BYU, both convincingly, and yet they still would have the shot to get to Dallas if the
Yeah.
cards fall properly.
I mean, we were just talking about the SEC a minute ago. I mean, my God, if Texas wins. Because then because it doesn't matter. I think the SEC championship is going to be A&M Georgia. No, because if Bama wins, hold on. Bama's lost two.
I think it would be Alabama because it would give them the one extra conference win because of Georgia's last game being an out of conference matchup.
No, the SEC only plays 8 conference games. Where it comes in is that Alabama's got the head-to-head against Georgia.
That's true. Yes, they would own the tiebreaker. So yeah. Now here's it all is a moot point if Ole Miss holds serve in the Egg Bowl.
No, because they all have one loss in the conference then.
Correct. Well, then again, yeah, Georgia's basically got the tiebreaker now. So
So it looks like it looks like the SEC championship game is basically decided because of tiebreakers.
I mean, Georgia's got the tiebreaker on just about anybody here. They did not play Alabama, but they did beat Georgia.
Lost to Bama.
In Georgia. I'm sorry, they lost to Georgia. I read it backwards.
Yeah.
In that regard. So they actually need, really the only shot that they've got to be able to get to Atlanta is going to be a Texas Tech loss, and they hold serve in the Egg Bowl.
I'm trying. Okay, so Ole Miss lost to Georgia. Bama beat Georgia. So if Bama wins the Iron Bowl, Ole Miss wins the Egg Bowl, Georgia's already at 7-1 in the conference, and Texas A&M holds serve. You're looking at Bama A&M in the SEC championship game. Now, the chaos isn't if A&M loses to Texas. The chaos is if Bama somebody loses one of those games. And we know after what happened, let's talk about Charlotte real quick after what happened yesterday in friggin' Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So in the ACC, we've got a three-way tie atop the conference with get this, number 19 Virginia sitting at 9-2 overall, 6-1 in the conference, leads the conference. Pitt at 6-1, 8-3 overall is sitting there, and then SMU gets themselves back into the top 25. They're at 6-1, 8-3 overall. Miami, who had the pick of the litter, has now fallen on hard times. They're 5-2, and they need a lot of help to get there. They're 9-2 overall, and Georgia Tech, who was also on a roll, also sitting at 9-2, and then 6-2 in the conference. And this is something where this was originally looking like maybe a 3-bid conference just a month ago. They're going to be lucky to get 2 right now.
They're not getting 2. If Notre Dame's got Stanford on Saturday, so that's going to be ugly. Notre Dame's going to get to 11-2 or 10-2. Sorry.
And the only 2 losses were in the start of the season, and one of them was to Miami in the final minute in the pouring rain.
And the other one was to A&M.
Right.
So really, if you're thinking about it, Notre Dame's got the 2 best losses in the country, 2 of the best losses in the country. Whoever loses the Big Ten championship game will have the best loss in the country. Along with, dude, the ACC is only getting 1 team in. It's going to be 4 each from the Big Ten and the SEC. It's going to be the Big 12 champion. It's going to be the ACC champion. There's 10 teams down right there. You have the guaranteed spot from the group of 4, and you have Notre Dame. SEC's only getting.
Miami's got a shot here because Miami gets to go to Pitt. And if Miami wins, there's a bigger log jam because Virginia and Virginia Tech will actually play their rivalry game. They've got the Commonwealth Cup coming up on Friday. That game is in Charlottesburg. Virginia right now controls her own destiny because Virginia Tech, with just hiring James Franklin earlier this week, they're sitting at 3-8. They're in turmoil, so they're not going anywhere. And then you've also got SMU, who's going to end their regular season at Cal, and they're going to end up. Cal sitting at 6-5, they're bowl eligible, but SMU's gotten real hot real quick. I got a feeling that they could roll into Berkeley and roll the Bears with that one because you had the game over the weekend. So that one's not a final week rivalry any longer. So this could get we talk about all the chaos in the SEC, but at that point we're talking about bye weeks and hosting first round games. Now the ACC might be the most intriguing of them all because you've got 5 teams looking for 2 spots, and you've got a bunch of these teams playing each other this weekend.
Yeah, I think you've got 5 teams looking for 1 spot, to be very honest with you, Jim. I honestly believe that if the Big Ten doesn't get 4, they'll get 3. And then I think the Big 12 will get 2. I'm sorry, Big 12 will get 2. I think you'll see another at large. Trying to think. So if I had to handicap it right now, Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon are definitely getting in from the Big Ten. There's not a question about that. A&M, Bama, Georgia are definitely getting in from the SEC.
And you could also, depending on how the cards fall, you might be able to add Mississippi to that.
I think Ole Miss would be the 4th team from the SEC. Right now, I'm just trying to think of who have the guaranteed.
So we're spots. At 7. We're going to get Notre Dame. That's going to be 8. You've got your group of 4, who right now could be anywhere from North Texas to James Madison, and Tulane's in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Kind of sad it's not Memphis. That would have been cool. Who's Vandy play?
Vanderbilt needs a lot of help right now. They will finish at number 10. I'm sorry, at number 20, Tennessee. Vanderbilt right now is sitting at 5-2 in the conference. They mathematically cannot get to Atlanta.
I'm not talking about getting to Atlanta. I'm just talking about getting in.
Yeah, I don't.
Does
I think
Vandy?
there's too many in front of them with those
Okay.
late season losses.
Yeah. We'll obviously when we get to
Here's where I make the
the
here's
first
where
week.
I make the case for 2 in the ACC because you could have the winner of the ACC championship. Um, but if Miami beats Pitt, even if Miami doesn't get there, that's going to mean that Miami would have beaten Notre Dame, who was 6th at the time. They beat South Florida, who was 18th. They beat Florida State, who was 18th. They lost to a Louisville team that has a chance to get to 8 wins. They lost to an SMU team 3 weeks ago, who's got a shot to go to Charlotte, and then they could end up beating a Pitt team that also could end up going to Charlotte. So I think Miami's got a very strong resume and a very strong case to maybe get a 10 or 11.
They do. My question then would be the committee has said they are not going to penalize a team that goes to a conference championship game and loses. So how do you get that? How do you make that argument then? And hear me out again. Miami's got a good resume. Miami's losses are to unranked teams. This is where the
But
rank
that's
by
also the
time
key
at
is the
time of
fact that
getting.
they were teams that were ranked at some point this year. They weren't ranked at the time, but they're both gonna be, at that point, bowl eligible teams that are gonna not only just bowl
Agree.
eligible, but 8-win teams.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but the ACC is where you're going to get the question asked. Well, are you sticking to the we're not going to penalize you for getting to a conference championship game and losing, or are you sticking to we're going on the resume? So as much fun as this 12 team is, not to sound like this, other than seeding last year was cut and dry who was getting in. We all knew who was getting in. Um, the only question was were they going to honor the 2 teams in the ACC championship game? And SMU had a great resume going in. Clemson played a perfect game to beat them. So you got to put Clemson in because they're the champion. SMU got a higher seed, even though they lost to Clemson. Um, so yeah, the next 2 weeks are just going to be freaking
And then
insanity.
the very last thing we'll talk about here very quickly is the group of 4, because we actually said it could come down to 3 teams. So you've got North Texas sitting at 6-1 in the American, 10-1 overall. Tulane currently ranked 24th in the CFP rankings, 6-1 overall, 9-2 in the American. Navy currently sitting at 6-1, 8-2 overall. Navy's got I don't think Navy's got a shot to get there, although I do think that they've got a really good chance to be able to get to the American Conference Championship game. And then the other team sitting as the outlier right now is the Sun Belt Conference, where you've got James Madison sitting at a perfect 7-0 in that conference. They've already punched their ticket. And remember, in the Sun Belt, it's at the host school. It's not a neutral site game. So they're going to host the Sun Belt Conference Championship game because they're the only one that doesn't have 2 losses in the conference. They're 10-1 overall. So you've got a 10-1 undefeated in conference, James Madison. You've got a 10-1, 6-1 in conference, North Texas, and you've got a 9-2, 6-1 in the conference, Tulane, basically vying for that group of 4. I personally think it could go to James Madison, but you can make an argument North Texas has got a pretty good and a really damn good resume to be able to get there as well.
Yes, they do. My only thing is this: both Army and Navy play in the American. Uh, Sidebar: the uniforms for this year's game are sick.
Perfect. How
Exactly.
is it that they've got, and somebody said this when I saw it out on Threads earlier this week, and I thought it was hilarious. How is it that they've got some of the most basic and borderline boring, regular in and out, everyday, regular season uniforms, but yet every year they get the alternate uniforms for that game on the money?
Because it's Army Navy. It's its own thing. So this is where my question lies: how do Army or Navy ever get to a conference championship game? They're both in the American. They play each other the week after conference championships. I I know I don't want to change the date of the Army Navy game. It should be its own thing. You should never have any other game besides Army Navy on that outlier weekend. But these two teams last year, we talked about it. We thought they were going to go to the playoff. One of them, anyway. How do you get to a conference championship game if you're Army Navy when you got to play a conference game after a conference championship game? It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think it's going to end up being James Madison. If they run the table in their conference, who they lose to?
I just had it because the Army Navy game will be Saturday, December 13th, and is the only game on the schedule. I completely agree. How hilarious would it be that Navy has a shot to get to the American Conference Championship game, playing it, and then still has to play the Army Navy game the following week, and then 2 weeks after that could possibly get into the playoff.
Jesus. James Madison lost to Louisville,
Who's again a bowl eligible team that has a shot to play in Charlotte. Well, then again, I don't think they mathematically can, but they could definitely play some spoiler here with this. So they're going to go to a significant bowl.
Yeah, the only game they lost was to Louisville, and they played Coastal Carolina on Saturday. So James Madison's going to get to 11-1.
North Texas will play Temple, who needs a win to get bowl eligible. And then the last one that we actually talked about in there, Tulane. Tulane is going to play Charlotte. And Charlotte right now is a one-win team. So right now, out of the three of them, Tulane's got the best line in because number one, it's a conference game, and number two, they're going to run all over Charlotte.
Well, I think Coastal Carolina is a conference game too. I think that James Madison's going to smoke them as well. Although that's at the Chanticleer, so it's a home game for them. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of another
on that puke green turf or whatever it is.
And you like how I remembered the name?
I'll give you credit for it. I mean, we watch enough college basketball. We know most of these nicknames.
That's exactly how I remember it too. So listen, I love this time of year with college football, college baseball. See what I'm fucking talking about? It seems to me rivalry week, conference championship playoff during college football, and then when you and I start breaking down the brackets, they're just amazing.
I mean, this is quite honestly the only time of the college football year I really, for the last 5 years, give a shit about. It just
That's
because now we're into the playoff and it's basically knockout season.
Yeah, it's definitely people are going to start losing.
We're playing King of the Mountain right now.
Basically King of the Mountain. But speaking of different mountains and different things, what do you say we get to number 2 since we're at 43 minutes already?
I can't play the music because of a copyright, but since we're seeing you on Friday and we will not see you live next Sunday, the greatest of all time will be making his final pay-per-view appearance, and John Cena will be wrapping. We have got 2 final dates in the legendary career of pro wrestler, actor, multimedia personality, and all-around wonderful human being, John Cena.
Did you watch? First of all, he's also a Grand Slam champion now. He's won every belt.
Yep.
And can I just say, Dominic Mysterio is more Eddie Guerrero than he ever was Ray.
Dominic Mysterio needs to have a world title run in 2026, or at least a world title program.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you. But that scene in that ring when he ends up winning the IC title
in Madison Square Garden
in MSG, you think Dom takes it off him at Survivor Series?
I think he almost kind of has to at that point. I don't know if there's any kind of fuckery that's involved with that match, but I think you almost kind of have to.
Or never mind fuckery. It's the John Cena tournament. Doesn't it bring some more juice to that Saturday night's main event if it's an IC championship match?
Nah, not. I don't think so. It's just because it's his final match. So they actually said like Sheamus suffered an injury and had to pull out of the tournament. Um, I do like the fact that they brought back Nick Nemeth, aka Dolph Ziggler. On Monday night, they brought back Matt Cardona, aka Zack Ryder, the week before. So I do like that they're bringing in some of these guys, especially with the working relationship. There was a lot of talk. Could they reach out and, maybe get Adam Copeland Edge to leave AEW and show up for the one show that was never going to happen and never going to be in the cards? Um, with that. He did the Cody thing. Roman's got War Games coming up. It's good for John to not be part of that storyline, to be able to run through, because you don't want his last pay-per-view match to be inside of a cage where he's going to get all busted up and possibly injured going into the Saturday night's main event in DC on December 13th.
I don't think you can take it off of him in his final pay per view, though. Do we see? Here's one. Here's one. Do you remember after WrestleMania 6, the Hogan Warrior title for title at Skydome? They had a tournament for the Intercontinental Champion after that, because of course
That's
Warrior took the belt off Hogan and was the double champion. They made him give up the IC title. Could they do Cena retires as the IC champion, and then they have a tournament for who's going to hold it next?
That would be the absolute worst case scenario, because there is nothing worse than somebody retiring with the title and then having to do a tournament because they take it off them. Because remember, we had it 2 years ago when Sting and Darby Allin won in Sting's final match, and they were the AEW tag champions, and then we had to have a tournament to crown new ones. There's nothing worse than having somebody leave and then having a tournament, because it makes better sense to be able to have a title on someone as opposed to strip it and then have a tournament. And now if a guy pulls out or something like that, and this is actually why they've been smart, because when Rollins got hurt, they actually had to get the belt off of him, and then they put it on. They had the battle royal, and they had Punk versus Jey Uso the very next week on Saturday night's main event. Um, when Becky got pregnant, she turned the title over to Asuka that night. When people leave or they suffer injuries, you don't hold that belt up for weeks with regards to a tournament. You got to get that belt onto somebody right away to make it mean anything.
Well, no, and when I say tournament, maybe something like what they did with the world title with when Rollins got hurt. Maybe definitely not the Becky thing. I don't think Cena can hand it. The last thing you want to see about Cena is handing a title to someone. Um, Jim, I just don't know how you take the belt off him before he retires. I don't see. You can't have him lose to Dominic. I'm sorry, you can't. You cannot have him lose to Dirty Dom. Now, what you can do is if you do the same thing you did when Rollins got hurt with the world champion, with the world title, that you do the same thing with the IC title after Cena retires, put it back on Dom.
I completely disagree. I think you have to put the title on Dom, because at that point, it's not so much Cena going out on top, it's getting Dom over by beating the greatest of all time in his final pay-per-view match. And think of what that does to Dom's stock. And that's what Cena's going to think. He's going to think for business at this point. He's done it all. He knows he's got 2 dates left, and then he's going into the Hall of Fame in April without question. The next time we're going to see him is going to be in he's going to be in the T-Mobile Arena at the Hall of Fame speech, and then he'll be honored in Allegiant the next 2 nights for night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania. And that'll be the last time we see him for a good long while, at that point. And then he starts doing like the Austin and Rock thing, and he'll make a sporadic appearance here or there or everything. He won't be wearing jorts or anything. He'll be in a suit or something like that. But I think there's no way, shape, or form that Dom does not win that match next Sunday. I think you've got to be able to put it on him. And then because at that point, now you've got to actually see um how successful can Dom run with this championship, especially with him also having the AAA championship. Um, which after WWE bought AAA or back in the summer, and then some of the work that he's been doing back and forth between not only the countries but the promotions as well. I think it's just good business to be able to let Dom run with that title because this way, if he is this nuclear as their top heel on Raw, it's just setting him up to be able to see what he's going to do. Could he possibly be one of the next challengers for Cody, like as early as maybe what Royal Rumble in January for the world title? Be able to build that up a little bit. Could we maybe able to also see, Dom get enough momentum to where he gets possibly a world title shot going into WrestleMania, coming out of Royal Rumble. Maybe not winning it, but maybe actually like going into like Elimination Chamber in February for one of those spots.
Here's the real question. If you take the belt off Cena with Dom on Sunday, do you keep Dom away and put him in the Rumble to get to WrestleMania?
I think it definitely makes sense because I want to say his last match in DC on December 13th is going to be one of the most watched wrestling matches of all time. And it's going to
I
be
am
on
100%
network
agreement.
television nonetheless, live. And I would say that they've got no problem already talking to NBC about running over, the TV cutoff time, or maybe even extending it, an extra 30 minutes. And then, I don't even know if Saturday Night Live is going to be on by then. They might actually be on their holiday break. I got to double check the schedule, but I think it's basically you're going to have him go up against somebody, who quite honestly is a friend at that point, or somebody who he's worked with, or somebody that he knows really well. Even if it's Jay Uso, who he doesn't have a whole lot of history with, um, I could definitely kind of see that, especially if Jay Uso, they're starting to tease him going heel a little bit more. Could that possibly come to fruition in the cage on Sunday? In War Games, because they've been teasing a lot of that with him and Roman. Um, but it's definitely very, very interesting uh, where they could go with that. And I actually think the last thing you want to do is kind of also you got Cena's last match on the 13th. We are 3 weeks away from that. You don't want to actually hold a title over top of that because then it kind of detracts from the storyline at the end, I think.
That's true. Okay, I give it to you there.
You want to
Um,
actually have Cena be able to have that Ric Flair 10-15 minute standing ovation send off afterwards.
yeah, no, I agree with you. Now, did you hear what Mark Henry said that they should do? Mark Henry said that at the end of Cena's final match, win, lose, or draw, Joe Hendry needs to come out and say, "I've always wanted to have a match against you," and like hit Cena once, Cena hit him back, Hendry fall, and then Cena pins him just because it's Joe Hendry.
Because he's officially signed now. His TNA contract
Yes.
ran out, so he's officially signed with WWE.
Yeah, no, he's going to get a big push in 26 too, and he should just for the theme song. But dude, this is tough. I mean, every wrestler from when we were a kid is done. Either they're off the main WWE roster, they're in AEW, or they're just straight done. I mean, who's left? There's nobody left from the Attitude Era.
Yeah, I mean Cena, really the only ones that still make sporadic appearances. You're talking Cena, who's gone in 3 weeks. Rock partially owns the company, shows up once every 6 months. Um, and then Edge and Christian are now in the over in the other company, and they're winding down as well. Copeland's already said he's only got a year or two left in him. Christian's only got a couple of years left in him. FTR won the tag titles over Brodito at Full Gear at AEW last night, and I think they're actually starting to set up a program where you're going to see possibly Christian and Copeland maybe take the belts off of FTR at I don't want to say uh uh I can't think of what their New Year's Eve type pay-per-view is. I don't think it's not New Year's Revolution, that's WWE. World's End, I think they call it, or Revolution in March.
I can see that happening. Because I know you saw Bubba and Devon had their one final match against the Hardys and gave them their boots.
At which they never,
Um,
which was very cool because they never told Matt and Jeff about that.
yeah, no, that was amazing. Um, dude, I'm getting fucking old.
And
So
yet
I mean,
and yet the hilarity is that I actually was scrolling through Instagram the other day and I saw somebody actually had a photo right as they were getting ready to like set up and everything of Amy Dumas and Trish Stratus at a autograph signing, and Trish for 47 years old still looks like she's like in her early 30s. I mean, somebody and then somebody put the 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 GIF over it. It's like that's illegal for that to be possible. It's true.
yeah, yeah, I was more of a Trish Stratus guy than Sonny.
I mean, Sunny was everybody loved Sunny because she was the first real major bombshell, like sex symbol that was out there. I mean, Liz, we all fell in love with Liz because she was just classy and gorgeous. Sunny was just a sex symbol, and then Trish flips everything on her head, and then Trish goes from, you know, being eye candy to one of the greatest wrestlers we've ever seen.
She's 49, by the way, not 47. And yeah, it should be illegal. So Cena, we're not going to see you much longer, even though we couldn't see you at all.
John Cena shows up in the hospital, the nurse, and says, "Where?" Yep, says to the nurse, "Where am I?" Yeah, the
She goes, "I see
nurse.
you." He goes, "No, you don't." Dad jokes. Oh, so what we got
I
last
love.
here?
Did you see also that that Triple H posted to his social media after Cena won the title of you know how he always poses with a champion and just does the point straight to him, and it's just basically they Photoshop Cena completely out, so it's just the belt on Cena's shoulder, but there's no Cena.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
That's the one thing I'm probably gonna miss most of all is he did the heel run. It flamed out terribly. Nobody
It,
bought it. He comes around and he's just having fun the last
he,
the last 6 months since WrestleMania.
I got to tell you, the AJ Styles match when they're doing everybody, dude. I was waiting for a stunner.
Yeah. If
A
Kevin
stunner.
Owens would have been there, he would have been. And that's the one thing I miss is that the fact that Owen's still on the shelf for the next several months. There was a great story that and I'll end the segment I hear on this. Natalia Neidhart went on a podcast earlier this week and said that Cena, in the wake of him winding this down, showed up at Natty and TJ Wilson, her husband, the former Tyson Kid, showed up at their dungeon and said, I just want to come and I just want to talk to your students. And he was there for several hours and just said, could I have done anything different? Is there anything else you'd like me to do? And he just came there and he just basically didn't so much get in the ring or didn't show them around or anything. He just talked to everybody for about 5 hours, just on a random day, flew up to Calgary for about 5 hours just to go to their dungeon.
I mean, when you talk about guys who get it and who give back, we talk about players in different sports. We talk about the David Wrights. We talk about in Cleveland, we talk about what, as a humanitarian, what LeBron's done in Akron. You talk about players like what Miles does in the community. You talk about what people like, Jose Ramirez has done in the community. And you talk about players, even in New York that do a lot. He is. I've never seen this. Rock didn't do this. Triple H didn't do this. Triple H basically had to start running the company because his father was an asshole.
Right.
But Hogan didn't do this. No one liked Hogan.
No.
Not Flair. None of them. Cena has been maybe the greatest, not only in ring, all around talent. Cena's been also an all around better human being than most people in that business.
And there is one guy from today's era that I think he's never going to eclipse him, but there's only one guy from today's era that can touch him, and we all know who it is. And it's Cody.
I was going to say Cody, but I didn't want to be wrong. Yeah. So what are we wrapping up the hat trick with there, bud?
So let's do a little. We haven't touched on them in a little while. Let's actually head to the rink. So we've got quite a bit of news coming out of the NHL here. But I want to actually start with that second one. The Winnipeg Jets announced earlier today that they're shutting down Connor Hellebuck for the next 4 to 6 weeks for an arthroscopic surgery, and now his status as part of uh, Team USA for the Turin Olympics is in doubt.
That's a big blow to Team USA. He was going to be their starting goaltender, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge blow to Team USA. Well, he should be back by the Olympic break, but Winnipeg's got to have a say in that.
Yeah, it's according to the report earlier today from ESPN, he's been dealing with the injury since training camp, and their coach said he tried to play through it, but it was best to address it now rather than have it linger on any further. His surgery was back on Saturday. He's the two-time reigning and defending Vezina Trophy, and he's trying to become the first since Dominic Hasek between 96 and 99 to win it 3 straight years. He's only 8-6-0 with a 913 save percentage, so that's very low for him. And the Jets actually even getting off to that hot start have kind of slid back, and they're right in the middle of that Central Division, and that leads us into that next part. I don't know if the Colorado Avalanche are going to lose anytime before the first of the year at this point. The Avalanche have rolled off 8 straight wins, and they are through 21 games. So, Michael, we're at the quarter pole in the NHL season. The Avalanche are 15-1-5.
Okay, then.
No other team in the NHL has any fewer than 5 regulation losses. The Avs have 1.
Jesus. That ain't cool. I mean, it's cool, but not for everybody else.
Their goal differential is a plus 37. The next closest squad in all of hockey are the Carolina Hurricanes at a plus 13, who got beat by the Islanders yesterday. I'm sorry, Carolina lost in Buffalo earlier today.
So basically what Colorado's doing is just hood stomping people. That's insanity.
And a lot of these games are not even close. It's, when I look at it, they're playing the Blackhawks right now, and they're already up 1-0 with about 11 minutes left to go in the third period. About to run their win streak to 9 if this holds up. 3-0 against Nashville, 6-3 against the Rangers, 4-1 against the Islanders, 6-3 against the Sabres, 4-1 against Anaheim, 5-4 against Vancouver, 9-1 against the Oilers, and 3-2 against the Lightning. So they are not just beating teams, they are stomping teams. They are slowly but surely dismantling teams.
Yeah, this is getting ugly. Plus 37 goals against. Come on now. Come on, you're 24 clear of the second best team. You're scoring points at an insanely alarming rate.
And their goals against average is 2.29, which leads the entire NHL right now. Nathan McKinnon's already got 17 goals in 20 games.
That is what surprises me more than anything else. You're talking about not only are you winning games, you're hood slapping people, you got a guy who's scoring goals at a crazy rate, you're going to win a lot of games that way.
I mean, I'm looking at their schedule right now. That lone regulation loss was to Boston back on October 25th, and it was a 3-2 loss. Every other game that they've lost has been an overtime or a shootout.
I got nothing.
You're This is the better part of a month, and they haven't lost in regulation.
Yeah, that's not even close to cool. I mean, not for anybody playing them, obviously. But here's my other question, though. Is it sustainable, do you think?
I think with the way that the Avalanche have been building this team little by little, and the fact that they've got McKinnon healthy, um, after all the injuries he's had the last couple of years, um, and also Gabe Landeskog, and the fact that you still have the best defenseman in hockey in Cale Makar year in year out. Um, I can't see why not. I mean, there's some very good teams in that division uh, on paper, but the problem is that you know Dallas can't figure out who they want to be. Minnesota's won 5 in a row and are finally starting to come around. It's about damn time. Utah's really cooled off. We talked about Winnipeg. Chicago was actually, out in front and surprising, and they've come back to earth. St. Louis and Nashville are just trash right now, and it pains me to say that as a Blues fan. I mean, for some of the teams that we've actually seen near the top. Florida is barely above 500. Toronto, as you can see, with the Sabres 4-1 win hosting the Hurricanes earlier today, that now puts the Sabres at 22 points. The Toronto Maple Leafs are sitting at 21 points and in the cellar in the Atlantic Division. The
Do
Toronto
you think
Maple
their
Leafs right
season's game
now,
7?
the Toronto Maple Leafs right now are 15th. They are dead last in the Eastern Conference. And oh, by the way, 14th right now are the New York Rangers at 22 points.
Do the Maple Leafs think the entire season is a game 7?
I mean, pretty much the graphic that I saw earlier today that said, people said that they didn't need Mitch Marner. Oh yeah, with Mitch Marner, the Vegas Golden Knights are sitting 2 points out of first place in the Pacific Division with 27 points. Now, granted, it's only 6 points better than the Leafs as it stands right now. And the Anaheim Ducks are leading that division. Seattle's sitting in second. Edmonton is sitting right now in fifth, but they're only 4 points out of first place in that division, with Stuart Skinner basically letting in everything under the sun into the net anymore.
I saw that.
To where he's slowly but surely playing himself off of Team Canada's Olympic roster. But how does not retaining Mitch Marner look for you now?
It doesn't. It's not a good look. Speaking of the Ducks, I really want that McQueen jersey. Just because he decided to wear the number of the fucking car. And I'm a giant child. Ovi's still climbing up the ladder, huh?
He with a hat trick on Friday night, he now moves himself into 10th place on the NHL's all-time scoring list. We're talking goals and assists. So 10th all-time in points, as if his resume isn't going to have them waive the 3-year exemption for him to get into the Hall of Fame the second he retires.
Yeah. Let's talk. Why did Rantanen get suspended?
Rantanen and I got to go back and I got to look at one thing here real quick. So the New York Islanders are going up against Dallas earlier in the week, and Rantanen with under a minute to go turns and lays into Romanov from the Islanders, basically cross checks him in the back, and typically, and you not being a huge hockey fan, but the rule is if you see the numbers, lay off when a guy's going into the boards. He
Yeah.
hits them going into the boards. Romanov is basically down, goes face first right into the boards. And then Rantanen is tossed out immediately. 5-minute major. and which and the hilarity is that it was actually found that the Stars were trailing in that game 3-2, pull the extra man, so it's a 5-on-5 instead of a 6-on-5 with the empty net, with the fact of, Rantanen's penalty being an automatic 5-minute major. So even if the Islanders would have scored, Rantanen, Dallas doesn't get their player back. Um,
Yeah.
so it appeared that the Stars would scored with under a second to go, and then it was found to be goaltender interference. They wave it off, and the Islanders win. Rantanen gets tossed out of his very next game, and by NHL rules, if you were given a game misconduct and tossed out twice over a 41 game period, you are automatically suspended, and it is not even up for uh what's the word I'm looking for?
Appeal.
Appeal. He cannot even appeal this, so he will sit
I like that.
their next game.
I like that. That's I think that's actually really a good rule. You get a 5-minute major for misconduct, you shouldn't be allowed to play. Or if you get two of them in half a season, that's saying a lot.
And the worst thing is it's 2 and 3 games for Rantanen.
Yeah. Is he a punk? Is this what I'm
He's
getting?
really not. I mean, that's the problem, is that he is arguably Dallas's biggest offensive threat, and he's doing stupid shit like this.
Yeah, when I said, I didn't mean goon, I meant punk.
Yeah, Rantanen leads the Stars in assists right now at 18. Outside of Jason Robertson, he is their best scorer, as Robertson's got 13 goals and 28 points already on this still young season. And it was also announced earlier this afternoon that Romanov, after the hit, is going to miss 5 to 6 months with a shoulder injury
Jesus.
as a result of the hit.
Yeah, that's horseshit. That's horseshit. But before we get to halftime, Jim, there is one sad thing on there. I did see the tribute that the Flyers did, which that was one of the coolest tributes I've seen. Especially the way they did it. That was amazing. But we lost Bernie Parent.
So we lost Bernie Parent before we came to you guys last week, and then they honored him before their most recent game, and they left his trademark white goalie mask resting on top of the net uh, during warmups. And the fact that they've also lost, Bobby Clark recently. So you've lost Bernie Parent and Bobby Clark, two of the biggest reasons why the Broad Street Bullies have the only 2 Stanley Cups in Philadelphia Flyer history. So, um, the Flyers, we all know, are not going anywhere anytime soon. Don't let their 11-6-3, 4th place start fool you anymore. They are still a very bad team, but it was a very good tribute by the Flyer organization, especially with the fact that they also still had, it's at least something, it's bringing something positive out of something negative, and it gets us talking about something other than the albatross that was hanging over the Flyers earlier this year, and that was the Carter Hart situation finally being resolved, and then moving on from Carter Hart, who then remember was part of the Canadian sexual abuse scandal that resolved earlier in the year, or at least earlier this summer, just before the start of the season, and then Hart is now backing up in Vegas.
Yeah, it's again all the players that paved the way for wasn't Bernie the first one to wear the mask?
I There's part of me that wants to say it might have been Marcel Dion, but he was like
Okay.
one of the first ones to, well, he wasn't the first one to wear it, but he was the first one to wear the full face
Okay.
version of it. Because remember, his mask is basically the Jason mask with a Flyer sticker underneath the left or the right eye.
That's right. Okay. Okay.
So he was the one that kind of popularized the original mask before they all went to the cages back at some time in the 80s. And then you still had guys like Hasek and Arturs Urbe who would actually wear a skater's helmet with a full cage, and nobody really does that anymore. So everyone has now gone to the full style hockey type cage, or at least not the hockey cage, but like the catcher's type cage, as now
Well,
all catchers wear that goaltender style mask anymore.
yeah, nobody wears the old. I like to call it the John Rice special, the egg helmet with the separate catcher's mask
Yep.
that goes over top of it. Um, but yeah, the NHL season is off to a great start. I mean, just what Colorado's doing, the fact that Toronto and the Rangers are terrible also brings some joy to my heart because I'm just tired of it.
And then on a personal note for my boys back there, the Buffalo Sabres, kudos to Rasmus Dahlin, who rejoined the team earlier this week after taking a short hiatus to be with his wife over in Sweden. As um, during a vacation back over the summer, his wife began not feeling well and then was rushed to the hospital and realized that she was going into cardiac arrest and had to have a heart transplant at
Holy shit!
26. So he actually left to be with her as she is still recovering from that. Uh, Nothing life threatening, nothing where they had to go back in or anything of that nature. But good on him on just kind of putting his family first and everything. Comes back and then the Sabres have actually put up 12 goals in their last two games since his return.
Wow, are they getting into the playoffs, Jim?
They've got some ground to make up. I mean, I do know that they actually released Alexander Georgiev in net because they're getting such good performance out of their current goaltending situation. Um, they actually had Alex Leon was the day one starter because of some of the injuries to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. But they actually they brought up a 25-year-old rookie who was cut by the Blues in training camp, and he's actually played pretty well for them in relief. So now it's good that they've actually got that developing because also still in the wings people forget with the Sabres is that he was one of their primary starters last year in the rotation with UPL, and that was Devin Levi. But Devin Levi's still only 21 years old. Starting last year at as early as 19 years old. And he's just not ready yet. So I mean, you still got him in the system. So hopefully things work out well with Buffalo. They got some ground to make up. I think right now Buffalo's biggest thing is you have to dump Lindy Ruff as your head coach. You cannot have a 73-year-old head coach out there in today's NHL.
No, you can't. Um, Hopefully, they can bring somebody in who can get them there. I mean, between them and the Jets, the football Jets, the playoff droughts are just terrible. The fans deserve so much better. But
So,
we're at an hour 17. When you say we hit halftime?
yep, we will see you guys we will see you guys right afterwards. We've got a very, very short blast, we hope. And then we'll get the translator and we'll get out of here because we both have to get up for work, even though it's a short week this week and we've got a short week to prepare for.
Exactly.
See you guys in 5.
See you in 5. That would have been fine to jump right in.
We're not start. This isn't Groundhog Day. That's still a couple of months away. We're not going to rerun the first half of the show again.
Yeah, no, I know. Um, but what do you say we jump into the blast? Because the double dose of the Big Rican number of the week is in the first part of the blast.
In case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't.
So in tonight's blast, we are going to start with this week's NFL action. Usually we have it in the first half of the show, but we felt John Cena deserved a far bigger billing than just into the blast because of the impact he has had on the sports entertainment world in general. But as you see, Jim always has the ticker updated on the bottom line there. Jim, not wanting to get into every single game, but a couple of the things that I saw, because we are going to spend some time on the one that's going across the bottom right now.
So I will start in on the scores real quick, very, very quickly here. We'll start in Chicago. The Bears moved to 8-3 and are now outright in first place in the NFC South with a come from behind 31-28 win over the Steelers. As Caleb Williams, 19 of 35, 239 yards, 3 touchdowns in a game where Aaron Rodgers, with that broken finger on his non-throwing hand, did not play.
Congratulations to TJ Watt for taking over the family lead in sacks as he passed his brother JJ today. Too bad he'll never pass Myles Garrett, the little bitch. I still got some love for the team, Jim, as you can see. I want to go to Thursday night, if we could, real quick. Who's got a better PR firm, Josh Allen or his wife?
The guy is drunk, but there he goes.
I completely agree, which is ironic because 2 nights later, I ended up watching, the holiday touchdown, A Bill's Love Story Hallmark Christmas movie, which actually had I mean, I know it was filmed several months ago, but it was like, could some of those guys, namely Coach McDermott, DeMar Hamlin, Matt Milano, Deion Dawkins, are they like, were they still having hangover from that? Because they obviously didn't show up nearly as well in that game as they got pushed around by Houston's defense all night. And let's talk about it here real quick. The Bills, come out a very back and forth game. They get 8 sacks, and Lewis Bullock forced 3 turnovers as the Texans hold serve with a 23-19 win. Allen was 24 of 34, 253 yards, but 2 interceptions. James Cook, 17 carries, 116 yards, and a touchdown. The Bills are 7-4 and fall even further behind the AFC, which we'll talk about here in a second. The Texans are 8-5, and with the Indianapolis loss today, are now just 2 games back with 6 to go.
Yeah, sorry, but did today's loss by Indianapolis and that come from behind win by Kansas City make everybody go, uh-oh? Uh-oh. Because I saw it, and Kansas City was down late, and I'm going, damn, if they go to 5-6, Travis and Taylor are getting married at the weekend of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, here's a Houston team that started out 0-3, and they're 6-5, and they're right back in this thing. Right now, I want to say they're sitting ninth, but I think they've got some tiebreakers.
Yeah, they do. They do have a couple. I'm more concerned about what Kansas City is going to do now. Because remember, they can go on a run here. They've got the Raiders again. They've got Denver in Arrowhead this time coming up soon. So Kansas City's not dead yet. And unfortunately, for everybody who wants them to be, you have to kill them. No one's killed them yet. The New England, obviously, you see New England won.
Yeah, it's the Patriots actually with a 26-20 win over the Bengals. Drake May continues his MVP caliber resume, 22 of 35, 294 yards and a touchdown. The Patriots moved to 10-2. They are the first team in the NFL to reach 10 wins this year, and this is actually putting them in the driver's seat to possibly rip the AFC East crown away from Buffalo for the first time in 5 years.
Yeah, and really, if you think about it, Denver's got to come out and play well next week because Denver is not the number 1 overall seed anymore in the AFC. It's New England.
By a half game with Denver being off this week, yes.
Yeah, I've been as much as I hate to say it, I've been very, very impressed with Drake May and the New England Patriots. And I will say this, it is more of a bad look for the Cleveland Browns every time New England wins.
Although the bad news coming out of this is Will Campbell, the stud offensive tackle for the Patriots, left the game in the third quarter, and they believe he suffered a knee injury and may be lost for the year.
That sucks. Yeah, that's not good, dude.
Can we talk about the fact that the top of the draft may as well be cursed? The number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, finally took 10 weeks before he really started to show up and look competent. Travis Hunter is lost for the year with that knee injury 2 weeks ago. Abdul Carter has been very disappointing for the Giants. Number 4 was Will Campbell, and he's basically lost for the year. It looks like that the best pick in the top 5 right now belongs to the Cleveland Browns with the way that Mason Graham has started to come on recently. Although the defensive rookie of the year is going to be Carson Schlesinger from the Cleveland Browns. We're going to talk about that here in a moment. But again, with that win, it moves the Patriots to 10-2. The other, we've got the Lions in a very back and forth game against the Giants. Come away with a 34-27 win in overtime. in a game where the Giants where Jameis Winston caught a touchdown pass.
I was gonna say, don't bury the lead. Jameis turned into freaking Jeremy Shockey in that play.
Although the announcers actually said he was the slowest moving wide receiver they may have ever seen.
Okay.
It very, very true on that point, but very good on Detroit coming back and winning that game. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Jameis was 18 of 36 for 366 yards, passed for 2, caught 1. But the Lions needed that win, but the last thing they wanted to do was to go to overtime. They'd almost even rather have lost this in regulation because remember, they have the short week because they're the early game on Thursday.
Yeah, but did they really go to overtime? It was the first play that Jahmyr Gibbs went 75 yards to end it.
But remember, they also still have to go out and play defense because it's not first score wins in overtime anymore.
If
Each
it's a
team
touchdown, it
gets
is
a possession.
score win. If it's touchdown, it is first score wins.
I don't think it was the first play. I want to say when they won, I want to say there was about 5 minutes left.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was the first play.
No, you're right. It was the first play. It was 18 seconds. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but still, on the short week like that, when you got the Thanksgiving game coming up, you don't want to have to play overtime on
And the
Sunday, even if you got the early game.
And the reason why the Lions needed this one is because the Packers hold serve with a 23-6 dominating win over the Vikings. Jordan
Are
Love only
they
threw for 139 yards, but they didn't need a whole lot today.
are the Packers quietly just piling up wins, and we're gonna look up one day and go, holy shit.
Their tie against Dallas earlier this year in the Micah Parsons Bowl is the only reason that they are technically a half game in front of the Lions in the NFC. I should say for second place in the NFC North because of Chicago's 8-3 record right now.
Unfucking real. Did you see the thing I sent to the group chat on Instagram?
Yeah,
Sorry, Alex.
the Seattle Seahawks right now are mathematically in first place, but that's not going to last very long. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. With a 30-24 win in Tennessee against the Titans, we talked about the Patriots being the first to 10 wins. The Titans are the first to 10 losses. Cam Ward in the loss, 28 of 42, 256 yards and a touchdown. The Seahawks are 8-3, and the Titans right now look to be primed for the number 1 pick for the second year in a row, except they don't need a quarterback.
They need something.
It looks like they could be fielding calls, for somebody to come up to 1 and get a whole host of picks. Because
Probably.
that's how you replace them.
Amen. Kansas City, of course, walked it off today in overtime. A 23-20 win at home against Indianapolis. What Danny Dimes look like?
According to Patrick Mahomes, 29 of 46, 352 yards and an interception. Kareem Hunt, 30 carries, 104 yards and a touchdown.
Good for
Daniel
Cookie.
Jones in today's loss, 19 of 31, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, only 58 yards on the ground, did not find the end zone. The Colts are 8-3, but more importantly, the Chiefs right now are 6-5. And it moves the Chiefs they are now a game back of the Chargers for second, but they are still 3 games behind Denver in that division as the Broncos have won 8 in a row and get a much deserved bye, as these are the final bye weeks of the season.
Yeah, and as I said earlier in the segment, this one made me stop and go, uh-oh. Could we have awoken a sleeping giant?
Kansas City still got some work to do because technically right now the Chiefs are 10th and they do not own the tiebreaker as they are mathematically tied with the Steelers and the Texans, and the Texans and the Steelers own the tiebreakers both over Kansas City right now. So Kansas City still got a lot of work to do, as if we were to start the playoffs right now, the Bills are the 7th seed at 7-4.
Kansas City is playing Dallas Thursday in the 4:30 game on Thanksgiving. Home for the Texans, home for the Chargers, at Tennessee, home for the Broncos on Christmas, at the Raiders on January 4th.
So there's maybe only 2 really winnable games there if you're looking at where
I'd,
they line up.
I'd say they have 4 winnable games there. I
I
think they
mean,
win
at
both
least
divisions.
at least 2 you could probably pencil in. There's a couple that could go either way, but that is definitely not an easy schedule.
It's not. I think they win Thursday. They're going to end up splitting with both the Chargers and the Broncos, and they're going to smoke the Raiders. So there's the 4 wins I see. Houston would be tough. Is that the CJ Stroud coming back for that one? But Jim, if they win 11, if they go 5-1 down the stretch here in the last 6, they're getting in the playoffs.
They're getting in the playoffs, but they're not winning the AFC. They're not winning the AFC West. Speaking of teams that are now back in it, somebody woke up the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens beat the lowly Jets 23-10. Tyrod Taylor 17 of 28, 222 yards and a touchdown in the loss. Derrick Henry 21 carries, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Ravens are 6-5, and if you combine that with the Steelers losing to the Bears, Michael, mathematically, the Baltimore Ravens are leading the AFC North and the Steelers are out of the playoffs. After starting 0-3, the Ravens are in first place after missing Lamar for a month.
I hate that fucking team.
The Ravens were at 1-5 and have rattled off 5 in a row.
I respect them, but I hate them.
Elsewhere, the third overtime game of the day, Jacksonville goes into Arizona. Jacoby Brissett, 33 of 49, 317 yards and a touchdown, but it's the Jaguars who moved to 7-4 with a 27-24 win, and it puts the Jags right now a game behind Indianapolis for the top spot in the AFC South, but more importantly, Jacksonville has moved into the 6th spot in the AFC and owns the tiebreaker over the Bills. So if the playoffs were to start right now, Jacksonville would go on the road to Denver. I take that back. They would go on the road to Indianapolis.
Jeez. Look at sunshine.
Dallas, on the other hand, comes from 21-7 down at the half, shuts out the defending champions in the second half, and comes away with a 24-21 win over the Eagles, dropping the Eagles to 8-3. It moves the Cowboys to 5-5-1. Certainly not anywhere, close to really kind of getting back into it, because here's the thing. If the Eagles would have won this game today, and they mathematically would have been all but ready to wrap up the NFC East next week.
Yeah, the NFC East is trash.
And it
Especially
puts the
with
Cowboys
injuries.
right now at 5-5-1. It puts them at 10th, but it still gives them a pretty good, shot to climb back into things. Dak Prescott, 23 of 36, 354 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Dak had a good day. I think you're going to start seeing some questions about Philly really start to surface. Never mind the AJ Brown shit. This is going to be serious stuff now.
3 to go here real quick. No Michael Penix, no problem. The Falcons go into New Orleans and down the Saints 24-10 in one of the, on paper, one of the worst games of the day. Turns out to be pretty entertaining if you're a Falcon fan. Tyler Shuck, the rookie for New Orleans, 30 of 43, 243 yards and an interception. Bijan Robinson, 14 carries, 70 yards for the Falcons. The Falcons moved to 4-7. It drops the Saints to 2-9. And now, really, at that point, if you think about it, the Giants became the first team in football, even though they've got a 2-10 record, and the Titans are 1-10. The Giants were mathematically eliminated from playoff contention today. New Orleans is right behind them at this point. And New Orleans, could they be looking quarterback in the top 5 next year? Or do they ride Tyler Shuck?
They're going to have to look quarterback. I don't think he's the answer. I don't think Shuck's going to be much of anything. I think, but New Orleans has more problems than that. So let's see what they end up doing. Maybe they may have no choice but to ride Tyler Shuck.
we're going to skip the one that we really want to focus in on. At the half in Los Angeles, the Rams have opened up a case of whoop ass on the Bucks
I
with a
saw that.
31-7 lead. Matt Stafford's already got 210 yards and 3 touchdowns and is, oh, by the way, only missed 4 throws the entire first half. The Rams, with the win, would push themselves to 9-2 and would be the top seed in the in the NFC. But more importantly, with the loss, it would move the Buccaneers into a mathematical tie with the Carolina Panthers atop the NFC South.
That's interesting. I think the biggest issue with Tampa, though, is injuries. They are playing with basically one hand. Baker's playing with one hand tied behind his back.
And we finish where we all expected. The Cleveland Browns, the Las Vegas Raiders, the prison inmate game of the week. Both teams 2-8. The Raiders have a 84-year-old head coach and nothing else going on. And the Cleveland Browns are starting the most overpublicized rookie possibly in NFL history in the last 5 years. And it is the Browns coming away with a 24-10 victory in Las Vegas, where Raider fans were booing their team after the first drive.
James, let's get to the two big Rican numbers of the week, if we could, please. And the first number is the number 1. And James, what does that stand for in this equation?
The one extra win on the Browns schedule that we actually anticipate that they would have had the entire second half of the year after the bye week.
No, that is the first time that a Cleveland Browns quarterback since 1999 has won his starting debut. They were 0-17 up till today.
And you just stole my thunder because that actually was one of my two numbers, which was 17. Michael, do you remember who that quarterback was?
It was today.
No.
They
Who
were
was the
0-17.
last Browns rookie quarterback to win their debut?
Oh, it was 1995. It was the year before they left. Belichick was the head coach. I read this shit today. The fuck was his name?
He went to school in your neck of the woods. The Georgia Wildfire, Eric Zier.
That's right. So let's now get to our second big Rican number of the week. And this number is a categorization of ineptness by front office. And that number is 3, James. And what does that number represent?
The third starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns in 2025, and the fact that that matches the same number of wins that they have, and also the fact that of their 3 wins, none of them have been in their orange helmets this year.
No, that is the difference between the number of presidents we have had since 1790, when George Washington took the oath of office for the first time, and the number of quarterbacks the Cleveland Browns have played since 1999.
And that
The Browns have played
and
42.
get out of my fucking head, because my my JC Blue Note number of the week is 42, the number of U.S. presidents since 1809, and that has been the number of starting quarterbacks for the Cleveland Browns since 1999. Asshole.
We have had 45 presidents and nearly 45 different men have held the presidency in 250 years. And in 26, the Cleveland Browns have played 42 quarterbacks. I have never seen the only ineptness higher than this. Could it be? It can't be the Jets, can it? The Jets have a Super Bowl. The Jets have played in
You got to
multiple
go back almost
championship
50 years for that, but you also have to think the Browns had 8 world championships prior to the Super Bowl.
Agreed, but since the Browns have come back, the Jets have played in 3 championship games.
And the Browns have 1 playoff win and 3 playoff appearances. Yes.
Exactly. So it's not the Jets.
That's
I can't.
scary that the Browns have 2 playoff appearances and a playoff victory since the last time the Jets have been to the playoffs.
But since the last time the Browns have played in the conference championship game, the Jets have played in 3. I mean, we're basically doing heads or tails of the same dumpster fire with those 2 franchises. But Jim, honestly, were his numbers flashy today? Absolutely not.
11 of
weren't.
20, 209 yards and a touchdown and an interception. And let's talk about that here. Of the 209 yards, 54 of them came on in the first quarter on a bomb to Isaiah Bond on busted coverage on a broken play that he rolled out a la Baker, and then 60 of those came to ice the game on basically a swing pass to Dylan Sampson that he got completely open on. He managed the game. He didn't necessarily manage it well, but he managed the game. There was a little bit more upbeat kind of tempo with them. The other aspect is that it broke David Njoku's 52 game streak of catching at least one pass today because he fell
Oh
in
shit!
love with Harold Fannin. Because Fannin um, I want to say he had 3 catches. He was kind of his security blanket after only 11 catches. But um, let's actually talk about the defensive side now that Carson Schlesinger had 11 tackles, 6 solo today as the outstanding young rookie linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. Even the announcers on CBS were saying put his name on the defensive rookie of the year trophy now, even with 6 games left to go in the season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the defensive rookie and the defensive player of the year are both coming from Cleveland. Have you seen what the fuck Miles is doing?
Miles
Good
Garrett
God.
today had 3 sacks. That gives him 18 on the season. He is now 4.5 short of Michael Strahan's single season record with 6 games to go. He has 11 sacks in his last 3 games.
And he's got to play Cincinnati again. And there's one other team they're playing again. Are they playing Pittsburgh again?
Yes, they do still have Pittsburgh.
So the
No,
Browns are
no,
playing.
no, no. I think they're done with Pittsburgh. The Browns remaining schedule. No, they do actually have Pittsburgh, so they will host San Francisco Sunday at the stadium. They will host Tennessee December 7th at Chicago, home to Buffalo, home to Pittsburgh, at Cincinnati. So he is going to still shatter. He broke today. Today he broke the Browns single season record, getting to 16, and then still tacked on 2 more to get to 18 today.
Just for kicks, he's tacked
Just
on
for
2 more.
kicks. As the Browns
Um,
as the Browns had 10 sacks as a team, one off the franchise record of 11 against Atlanta back in the 1980s.
so he needs 4.5 between the last 6 games to tie Strahan's record. He needs 5 to break it.
And with the fact
So
that
do
he's got 3
weeks.
games of at least 3 this year, and he's got a 5-sack game in the last month.
He's gonna in 2 weeks. I'm gonna say this. He gets to 30.
I don't think 30. I think he could sniff 25.
You're
He's got to
telling me in
have
the next 6
12 in the
games,
last 6 games, Mike.
that's 2 a game.
I understand that. I think 25 is definitely more reasonable. I think he also puts it at a mark where nobody's eclipsing it anytime in the next quarter century.
I think if he gets to 25, he's going to want 30. But you're going to get the defensive rookie of the year and the defensive player of the year both out of Cleveland. It's a lock. But let me weigh in on Shador real quick. I have said he's been in development project the entire time. Agreed? Okay. Let's talk about the 2 plays you brought up that he got most of his yards on those. Dylan Gabriel can't make that first throw.
I
Not on his
completely
best
agree.
day.
I
Even if
completely agree.
and Shador rolled to his right, so I'll even give you Gabriel rolling to his left because he's left-handed. Dylan Gabriel cannot make that throw. Did you see Miles's reaction to that throw?
I did. But let's also call it what it is. the interception that he threw into triple
Terrible.
coverage and basically threw it straight to the linebacker as if
He
he
did.
was fanning the tight end sitting right over the middle. He made all the
Perfect.
deep throws that Gabriel can't. The problem was he couldn't make an underneath throw to save his water, if he was standing in a sinking boat today.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Now, as far as the other play goes, why is it on players we don't like, and I do it too, we discredit the play being run correctly when these guys make a big play? Because that wasn't a swing pass, dude. That was a screen pass. That was run to perfection. And the sheer fact that I am saying the words run to perfection on a Cleveland Browns offensive play maybe ought to tell people something. This is one of the most inept offenses of all time. Oh, and don't forget his 33-yard completion to Jerry Jeudy, which he ended up fucking coughing up that piece of garbage. On a play, by the way, if you watch it, he directed Jeudy to the open spot in the zone.
I completely agree, but that was also a busted play. And Judy, I don't want to say he took off because I don't think he knew the guy was coming from behind. But the fact is, I also not only have to put that on Judy, but I also have to put part of that on Isaiah Bond because he should be yelling, "Go down" or "Watch your back" from
Agreed
from
with
having that ball punched out.
100%. My issue with the takes we are going to hear from the talking heads tomorrow, and some of the things you and I have gone back and forth about, is that here's a bottom line. They won. So now they've got a win from Flacco, a win from Gabriel, and a win from Shador. The difference being is, I think Shador is going to win one or two more games. I don't think Gabriel had a prayer. And you're talking about busted plays. The reason they had so many busted plays is their O-line is still a fucking sieve.
It is. I mean, you're probably going to see them because the way that this is the what I kind of take away is we all want a Browns win. The fact is though that it was the worst case scenario for them. It's because now it gives all the extra ammunition to the Shahive that's all we're going to hear on sports talk radio in Cleveland and probably nationwide for the better part of the next week on a 3-win football team going up against a team that was worse than they were because of how inept the Raiders looked today. Number two, the fact that Stefanski in the post-game press conference will not commit to him as the starter for San Francisco on Sunday because Gabriel is going to be out of concussion protocol and able to be going back in. And they've already said that they actually want Gabriel to be the long-term backup. And the fact that the game didn't look too big for him. The problem was the underneath throws that this offense is predicated on, he could not make.
You're absolutely right. I didn't watch the game. We were doing other stuff. I will say this though. I'm gonna watch the condensed game before you and I talk again this week. I am gonna say this though. The underneath throws in this offense are timing throws. We saw it with Baker. It's 4 or 5 step drop, get your foot in the ground and throw the ball. He didn't have that kind of time, Jim. This offense is predicated on good offensive line play and the ability to run those timing routes in the intermediate. And guess what? Without the good offensive line play, you can't run the timing plays on the intermediate. He can make the throws. He did not do it today.
Here's the problem, though, is that you've got 6 and 1, half dozen of the other between the two quarterbacks that you've got right now as rookies. Gabriel can make the throws. He's not strong enough to make the throws. He's got the accuracy to make the throws. Shador has the arm strength. He's got the accuracy on the deep ball, but he can't read to be able to make the right throw yet. That's something that's teachable. You're not going to be able to teach Gabriel. He's not magically going to sprout up to be 6'1", 6'2", and have that level of arm strength. He's going to be your underneath guy. The problem is he's shorter. Some of the throws that he made, some of the underneath throws, he's also put balls in windows that nobody else, could because of how well he's able to read at that point. He just doesn't have the athletic gifts to be able to get those. Shadur's got those athletic gifts, but he can't read and he doesn't have the intellect that Gabriel does. And that's the problem right now is you're trying to be able to mash two sections that you need to be able to get a complete quarterback, but you got one who's extremely lacking in the athletic department, and then you've got one who's extremely lacking in the intellectual department with the way that the offense is built.
I think with reps he'll get better with the intellectual thing, but I will say this, and this is more again, my whole issue with Shador, Bronny, the whole thing is narrative. It's always been, and it will continue to be. If you gave him more than a week, look what happened when you gave him a week. What did you and I complain about 3 weeks ago with this Browns team? Can't throw the fucking ball downfield to save their fucking lives. Hello, you had 2 completions over 30 yards. Did they have 2 completions over 30 yards the rest of the season?
No, it's the pass to Bond was their longest play from scrimmage all year. The one to Sampson to close it out eclipsed that.
Yeah, and again, Sampson was a screen
which
pass,
again was basically a glorified sweep.
Yeah, and by the way, again, putting full credit where credit is due, the blocking scheme on that play is why he was sprung. End of story. This wasn't a great throw by Shador. This wasn't a great, open field move by Sampson. That was the best blocking on a screen the Browns have done since Nick Chubb in that playoff game in Pittsburgh. Having said that, you're going to see some of those windows now open up on the intermediate for him because you have to respect his arm. I'm going to throw my Buckeyes out here for a second. You'll understand where I'm making the correlation here. 2014, they go on the run to win the national championship. Do you know why they were able to do that? Because you couldn't put an 8 in the box with Cardale Jones under center. Because if you put 8 in the box and you leave guys open one-on-one on the outside, he can throw the ball 50 yards in the air. You now have that same thing with the Browns. The real problem the Cleveland Browns have is they don't have a wide receiver who can catch the fucking ball with somebody on him on the outside. So I think you will see him improve on the intermediate and the short passing game in the next week or two. I also think that now you're going to see these teams not be able to stack the box. Quinshon Judkins is going to start going off.
He kind of needs to because, I was talking about it with my mom earlier today that if you think about it, Barry hasn't been the greatest purveyor of the draft, and yet this year he has hit on every single draft pick. Judkins, once he finally gets going or gets an offensive line, is going to be the next stud running back for this franchise. Carson Schlesinger is going to be a top 5 linebacker in the NFL in the next 2 to 3 seasons. He's already going to be the rookie of the year. Isaiah Bond was undrafted and has come on very well late. The 2 rookie quarterbacks, you've got something there. You got to be able to tune it though. But the problem is that you've also you also take in like Gage Larvidan, who is actually, an unsigned free agent out of training camp and has actually blossomed pretty well. You get Michael Hall back, who basically played only a couple of games last year. You can almost kind of consider him a rookie as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mason Graham has played very well in the last few weeks coming back off of his injury. So they have hit every single point this year. If they don't spend both of those first-round picks and maybe one of those seconds on an offensive lineman next year, there's a huge problem. But what we were talking about is that, and even you and I were talking about it, that, people are concerned. Do we really want Andrew Berry making those picks next year with this? And I don't think it's even going to be an issue because with Paul DePodesta leaving to join the Colorado Rockies, I think you're going to see Andrew Berry move up to that president of football operations, bring in a GM, and then Kevin Stefanski's seat did not cool really much at all after this. He is still the possibility of getting run out of here if this thing bottoms out the next 6 weeks.
I think he will get run out of there. I think Stefanski's on his last legs in Cleveland. Let me say this.
Because he also is not committed. I even said it. The fact that the Sanders and how energized they were, and yes, it's a win. It's a win against a bad football team. You've still got a couple of possible winnable games against Cincinnati and Tennessee. You're picking 8-23 right now, which again is the worst case scenario because again, you go out and you win so that you went from 5th to 8th, and then Jacksonville's win propels them from 16th to 23rd in the overall standings, in terms of the first round draft picks. And also you feed into the narrative that people are going to be calling for Shadur. So if Gabriel goes out there and starts on Sunday against the 49ers and goes 3 and out, you're going to be having boo birds all over Brown Stadium when they're trying to get a win.
I got news for you. He doesn't start Sunday, the boo birds will be out before the game starts. Hey, Jim.
And
The
you've
last
also got
time the
that
Browns-
massive albatross. You've got that $56 million albatross that they're talking about putting into the 21-day practice window as well.
Well, that piece of shit. Fuck him. But there's something else this reminds me of. This reminds me of after that Jet game when Hugh Jackson would not commit to Baker. And that and his terrible record ultimately cost Hugh Jackson his job. I'm going to say this, and you may not like it, but I think I'm going to be right. Sorry, as I have to re-band-aid my finger. Thought the bleeding was stopped. If he doesn't go to Shador, this proves that Kevin Stefanski is the one who picked Dylan Gabriel. And I think it also proves that Kevin Stefanski is the one that went to Jimmy Haslam to get Deshaun Watson. I think Shador was Barry's pick. And Barry, not to sound like this, and it's going to sound like I'm, Captain Conspiracy Theory, but it would be some petty shit to trade up to get a quarterback in the 5th round that everybody and their mother knew was better than the kid that the coach wanted in the 3rd. Everybody knew Shador was better than Dylan Gabriel. There's a reason Gabriel set the record for most amount of starts in college history.
Because he played 6 years and transferred 3 times or something?
Yeah. UCF to Oklahoma to UCF to, or UCF to Oklahoma to Oregon. I'm telling you. Those 3 picks between the first 2 rounds next year, O-line, wide receiver, O-line. Carnell Tate's coming out.
And here we go with this shit already.
Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but the problem is you want to get O-line up front. Tate's not going to be there when you're picking it when you're picking in the 20s.
I think he will be at the 20s because of what the other teams need and the fact that people are going to discount him because of Smith. Ibuka went at 19. You don't know.
And congrats to Emeka Ibuka, who actually I'm sorry, to another Buckeye, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who set the Seahawks single season yardage record today,
With
breaking
6 games
DK
to go.
Metcalf with still 6 games to go.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, we would have beaten Georgia if he wasn't hurt that year. God damn it.
So we move on from the NFL and all the Shadur talk because we've still got 6 more weeks of this crap. But the Dallas Wings, for the 2nd year in a row, have won the WNBA's draft lottery. Michael, we were talking about it right before we came on the air. That there was talk that they were going to end up with some of the mock drafts that they were going to draft Awa Pham, the 6'4" center out of Spain. And now ESPN is already reporting that shooting up after they took Paige Becker's number 1, they would go her teammate and good friend AZ Fudd, the UConn senior, to pair with her.
It wouldn't be the worst idea. I mean,
Do you really want to go guard back-to-back years, though?
Yeah, but Paige is a 2, Fudd's a 1. Here's my correlation. Didn't Cincinnati do the same thing? Take Burrow and then take his favorite target and get to a Super Bowl?
I mean, conceivably, yeah, but I mean, some of the other names out there, Olivia Miles, the senior star guard from TCU. You got Lauren Betts, the 6'7" center out of UCLA. Faluje Johnson from LSU, the 5'10" shooting guard senior. So I mean, Dallas has got their pick of the litter right now.
Yeah, I think they go if they go the Fudd from UConn, it's because they're going to have her run the point, which she did with Paige, and Paige is going to play the two. Because you just talked about a 5'10" two from LSU, the girl. Paige a little bigger than that, and I think Caitlin Clark is a self-facilitating point guard. Most of the other point guards in WNBA are that way. Your two guards kind of get lost in the shuffle. You could make Paige Beckers a scoring champion with the point guard who knows how to feed her just where she wants her shot, knows her speed, knows the way she cuts. That's a hell of a move, dude. I like that.
The story with Awa Pham, the center from Spain, is she doesn't turn 20 until June when the season would start. And because she's so young, she's going to need time to develop, ESPN is saying. Uh,
Mhm.
and she's currently playing professionally for Valencia in Spain. They're actually talking that she could go number 2 to Minnesota, who could probably bring her along a little bit more. Um, but the other aspect with where I think she actually if you're gonna need to develop her a little bit more, I think it might be better for her to go to Minnesota, but I think Dallas, I don't know if they could really pass on that because the other thing, that people forget with AZ Fudd, yes, she's a great player, but she, just like Paige, has also dealt with some significant injuries the last couple of years at UConn. Do you really wanna run that risk 2 years in a row because you lost Paige? She had both knees, operated on, goes out and wins a national championship, and then gets shut down this year for a
I
part of the year.
think I think it really depends on how you want to build your team. If you want to build it to make Paige Beckers the star, you have to build with people around her that complement her game. One place I can see the player from Spain going, look at Indiana. They have a center. They have a star center.
Well,
She can
Indiana's
play.
they're talking Indiana right now, they're picking 10th, and they're
Mhm.
actually talking about, Makina Okot, ESPN's projecting
Okay.
the 6'6" senior out of South Carolina.
I think you take anybody from uh, Dawn's uh, program, you're going to have a good player. So that's not a bad thing. What do you say we get to the middle one and we end tonight on a little bit of a sad note? Um,
Michael, you saw this a little bit more than I did, so you can take this one.
yeah, and give me 1 second. So what we're talking about here is actually something pretty sad.
Breaking
Um,
news, Baker Mayfield left today, just left the game with an injury, undisclosed as to what, but Baker is out for, um an unknown set of time as the Rams still lead 31-7 in the third.
oh, come on, Bake. Oh, something to watch. You should watch where they were polling the locker room on what Baker and his wife and Emily are going to name the boy. To see Tej Johnson and Emeka Ibuka discuss it is actually quite hilarious.
It's a left
Um,
shoulder injury, doubtful to return.
oh, that's the one he did. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's in the non-throwing shoulder.
That's the one he did in Cleveland, Jim. Hopefully, the Tampa brain trust is smarter than the Browns one. So, University of Washington women's soccer team, back-to-back Big Ten champions in their first 2 years in the conference, lost their goaltender. And this was an injury. Mia Hammond, who was a star goaltender for Washington, both in the Pac-12 and in the Big Ten. She had a cold that just wouldn't go away, or a cough that wouldn't go away. Excuse me. She went to the hospital. She went to the doctor. Was diagnosed with a rare form of kidney cancer that took her very quickly. She was sitting out this season. The team was wearing the orange ribbons for the certain kind of kidney cancer she had. It's in their hair, it's on their wrist, it's on the uniforms. She was still going to games. She was seen at a football game. I guess they have something like the Browns do where they break the guitar, or the Colts with the um, banging on the anvil. She did that at a game. But it was either the night before, it was the night before, I'm pretty sure, of the Big Ten Conference Tournament Championship game that she passed away. Well, the team not only went out and won the next day and won in penalty kicks, but her replacement made two, and I said this to Jim the other day, for those who watched the 99 Women's World Cup, two Brianna Scurry level saves in that penalty kicks session that won them the Big Ten championship. So my hat is off to that team. I don't know how we saw an NFL game get stopped because of a catastrophic injury. And these ladies went out when their teammate and friend, and in some places you get as close to family to your teammates as you do in other places, to go out and win the next day like that and win a conference championship. Hats off to these ladies. On another note, by the way, Washington's women's field hockey team, shout out to Kylie Kelsey, won the national championship today. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Northwestern did that. Never mind. Don't listen to me. I'm all sorts of confused. There's only one thing left to do now after I fucked that up royally.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean!
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the YZ Translator. It is the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. Of course, this is the time when James and I give each other names inside or outside of the sports world, and we come up with the first thing that pops into our heads. But more importantly, it has given us the YZ Chronicle, the moment where James reveals the Chiron going into the translator, and I normally lose my shit. So, James, if you would please. I feel like Vanna White when I do that. Listen, you ain't fucking wrong. Hilariously enough, I have a Batman pillowcase that Bobby and I share. And I saw for the first time right when Steph was pregnant for Bobby, and it said, ladies, name your child Gotham. Because there is not a single time that you roll over when the baby wakes up in the middle of the night and you say to your husband, Gotham needs you, he don't get out of bed.
Although the funny thing is I hear Batman, and I have not watched a Batman movie since The Dark Knight Rises, and not that I don't want to, but the first thing I think of is the perverted Batman college humor video, and you know the one that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. Oh, your boy Pattinson, I hear, is a pretty good Batman.
That one I've actually got to see because they're getting ready to. I think they're starting to write a second one.
It's going to be filming soon. I think it's got a 2026 release date. So, James, your first name tonight in the YZ Translator, we are going to go to the world of the NFL. And your first name today is our friend, Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski.
Sometimes being as non-committal is all it's doing is that you ever see those shows where like people travel back in time, and then when they actually start saying things, like the books are blank and they actually start writing themselves out as things start happening. That's basically what's happening, except it's not books getting filled, it's the pink slip with his termination agreement on it, because the fact that the offense goes out and they win today and they put up 24 points, which is the second most points that they put up at all this year on their third quarterback, their third starting quarterback, and you would not commit to this kid and you planned on redshirting him. And yes, there were times that he looked completely lost today and he could not make the simplest of throws that we talked about, and you were still not committal to him compared to Dylan Gabriel when the 49ers come in next week. Um, if you do not play him next week and you are run off the field, I'm still holding firm to the point where they may not even wait for Black Monday and they may let him go before Christmas.
Listen, if they don't play him next week and they get run off the field and the offense is as inept as it was with Gabriel under center the entire time, I would just, as he walks through the tunnel, just point him to his car.
I mean, think about this. They give the 1-win Jets a convincing win. They go out and they stomp the hapless Raiders, and then in 2 weeks they get to host the god-awful Titans, and if he loses that game to the Titans at the stadium and still wants to run Gabriel, he will be out of here in the next 3 weeks. There is no way that you will be able to bring him back. 2 Coach of the Year awards and a playoff victory, be damned.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. Yeah, no. I think if Dylan Gabriel plays Sunday, we will have our answer as to who drafted them. Stefanski drafted Gabriel. Andrew Berry, to be a petty fuck, traded up to take Shedeur Sanders. And it makes me respect Andrew Berry even more if he did. And honestly, and I know I said it before, and it's conspiracy theory, and I get it. I think it does show you that it was Stefanski who wanted Deshaun Watson. And Jimmy Haslam ate it up. Because remember, Stefanski was hired before Berry when they did this, which is backwards. But yeah. What you got for me?
We'll have all kinds of conversation when we come back from our Christmas break as to who the potential new head coaches are going to be circling around the NFL, because we already are going to have one in New York. We could actually have one in Atlanta. We could have one in Las Vegas for all we know, after Carroll could be one and done. And we could be talking about one in Cleveland, and that'll probably drive the majority of the conversation. But Michael, your first name, while we're talking about coaches here, one that actually decided to get retained under inauspicious circumstances as of late, we're going to shift to the world of college football, and it is much maligned and much crashed back down to earth with a very loud thud in Tallahassee, Mike Norvell.
How long has it taken Bret Hart to get over the Montreal screw job?
I'm expecting to read that on 411 Mania any day now.
Okay. That's basically what Mike Norvell went through 2 seasons ago, was the Montreal screw job. However, Florida State also knows something else. To paraphrase Rick Pitino, Bobby Bowden ain't walking through that fucking tunnel. He's not a bad coach. I think he's got a little bit to be desired as a recruiter, but he's not a bad coach. This is a guy that pre-injury he went 13-0 in the ACC 2 years ago. That's nobody remembers. We're way too into a Janet Jackson society. By Janet Jackson, I mean, what have you done for me lately? It's like when we talk about Ryan Day getting fired a couple years ago. Who's your hire? Brian Kelly, we know, can't win anywhere. And by the way, that was a classless thing LSU did. Classless.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's just fucking terrible. You going to bring Brian Daboll back from the Giants? Lane Kiffin ain't going to Florida State. So why not keep the guy you have that 2 years ago should have had you in the playoff? and won a conference championship and let him rebuild this thing. The continuity thing at some of these schools that had coaches for a long time get it. There are going to be lean years. They're going to be. You set your schedule. You don't know what it's going to be like. You get injuries, what have you. Should he have been fired? No. Does he need some help? Yes. There's only 2 or 3 coaches that should have been fired this year in college football. One of them got canned from Florida. See ya. He shouldn't have made it to this year. But I don't think James Franklin should have gotten fired. I think Penn State's gonna have to wear that. I only think the 2 coaches should have gotten fired were Brian Kelly and a dude from Florida. Everybody else has gotten canned. What are you guys doing? What are you doing?
I don't think it's a big surprise that James Franklin got canned. I think it's how early it was. I thought that they would let him finish out the year.
I think it's a huge surprise. Because what was Penn State under Bill O'Brien?
I understand that, but it's the fact that, the Ohio State game and everything was like the one that they were pointing to on their schedule, and
He was
they
gone by
weren't even
then.
competitive by the time that game rolled around. I mean, they were
Agreed.
laughable.
They were. But at the same time, we talk about resumes get teams for a chance at a championship. The guy won a Big Ten title and played for a second in an era where names like Harbaugh, Meyer, Day, and other coaches in the Big Ten were there. And they gave Oregon everything they could have taken in last year's Big Ten title game. You can't hold a coach accountable for injuries when they're freak like Drew Allers. What you can hold a coach, especially in college, accountable for is recruiting, is violations, and if he lost a locker room. He didn't lose a locker room. They don't have any violations, and he's a hell of a recruiter. So now Penn State's asking the question, who's your hire? I don't know if you saw the players came out yesterday with the interim coach on there, and he may take over and he may be good. James Franklin is going to take Virginia Tech to the level Penn State was at because he can recruit like that. I don't see Penn State being back up there again for a long, long time. So, your second name, sir. We are going to go to the world of basketball. And your name tonight is a team, not just a player or a person. And that is the 2-14 Indiana Pacers.
We just talked a second ago about injuries. We knew Indiana was not going to be good. You're missing Obi Toppin for most of the year. You're not going to get Tyrese Halliburton at all because the playoffs, you can basically kiss those goodbye, even though we're less than a month into the season or just over a month into the season at this point. It might actually, statistically speaking, it may go down as one of the biggest flame out and flame jobs in basketball history to see a team go from game 7 to possibly a top 5 lottery pick at this point. But you have to see that everything is stacked up against them because the only team in basketball that they are better than right now are the New Orleans Pelicans and the Washington Wizards. And the Wizards are not going anywhere because the Wizards have lost 14 in a row. And the Pacers are 1-9 in their last 10. I mean, they're semi-competitive in some of these games. Although, how do you go into Phoenix and get run off the floor by 38? You give up 152 to the Jazz from what I'm seeing. It's just when when Pascal Siakam is leading your team in points and assists per game and also rebounding and steals, sorry, Pascal Siakam is not LeBron. He's not Donovan Mitchell. He's not Evan Mobley. He's not, Jalen Brunson. He's not Jason Tatum. He's next man up at this point, and that's entirely what the Pacers are running. And there's no way that you run any part of this coaching staff. It's just a rebuild year. You had to know it at this point. If Tyrese does not tear his Achilles, we're talking about possibly them going into Oklahoma City and winning the NBA championship on the road in a game 7. Instead, we're talking about kind of condition is Tyrese going to be in to start the 2026-2027 season next fall, and what can we possibly salvage and develop out of this year?
Yeah, it's quite the turnaround. I mean, this is 99 Bulls, 2019 Cavs like turnarounds.
I mean,
it's insanity.
I mean, when Jason Tatum goes out with that kind of injury, and the Celtics right now are sitting at 9-8, it's because they still have Jalen Brunson. They still have talent. Indiana loses 2 of their big name players, and oh yeah, by the way, lost another one to free agency. Um, there's definitely some turnover going around here. You don't have Halliburton for the year. You've got Benedict Mathurin is still out there, TJ McConnell out there. But again, a lot of these guys are role players. Whereas, you got to get somebody to step up here. But the problem is that when you take some of these guys who excelled through their playoff run last year and expect them now to lean on them instead of being role players, to be thrust into that starter type position where you need them to magically, grow their output exponentially, it's not going to happen. And this is where you're a 2-14 basketball team.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, I feel bad for him. In that Central Division, the thing is, or in the Eastern Conference in general, I mean, it's bad. It's bad. I think through 16 games, a sheer fact that the Pistons are 14-2
and won 12 in a row.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we knew Biggerstaff was going to be a problem. We knew it. Who you got for me to close the night there, bud?
Mike, we're going to stay on the hardwood, and you and I talked just before we went on the air about some pretty good trash talk. We had one the other night, and I'm going to give you the retaliator in this one. So your name tonight is future Hall of Famer and basically putting the young man on his ass. One Mr. Klay Thompson.
Oh, Clay. Who knew the long range bombs you could throw weren't just about 3-pointers? I tell you what, though, that wasn't the best trash talk of the week. Did you see what Kenyon Martin did?
We had some good ones this week.
Did you see what Kenyon Martin did?
This one I missed. I heard something about it, but I didn't exactly see what it was.
Kenyon Martin put out a video with a list of the power forwards who were better than Draymond Green. It was 2 pages in a notebook. 1 person per line. And he left himself off.
Did you see the new Dick's Holiday commercial?
No.
There's a whole bunch of athletes asking whether they're on the nice or the naughty list with Santa standing in there. And all of a sudden, right at the end, you see it like they're saying you did this, this, and this, but yeah, you're on the nice list. So it's just like a tacker on the scoreboard in the store. And all of a sudden, you see Draymond poke his head around, and Santa just looks at him and says, "Not this year, Draymond."
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And he's always on the naughty list. Screw him. So as we teased earlier,
2 more very quick points before we go off the air tonight. Number one, going to the NBA, it was announced that Chris Paul will retire this season after 19
That's
seasons.
right.
So
right.
good on him. We kind of anticipated it with the way that last year ended with San Antonio, and then we have to spend the final minute before we wrap up, talking about Cleveland legend who had a very, very high profile story on NFL Countdown today and also through the national media, and that is the recovery of legendary Cleveland Browns quarterback Bernie Kosar, who underwent a liver transplant after over 2 years on the list. After it was also shown that there were about 4 to 5 different times where he was supposed to be getting one, and then it was found that he was not going to be a match. He was originally supposed to get one earlier this week, and it got infected. And if you have not seen the video or the segment that they aired with the conversation with him and Jeremy Schaap this morning on Sunday NFL Countdown on ESPN, you need to go watch it. Because he also received the liver of a 21-year-old Cleveland man who contracted a very quick illness that unfortunately passed away from. And just the sight of his family saying goodbye as he took his final ride down the halls of the hospital, um, only for that liver to be put into Bernie, who was already recovering 4 days after surgery. Um, Great shout outs during the CBS broadcast of the Browns game today. Great shout out yesterday between his longtime friend and backup quarterback Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler on the CBS uh, college football telecast this week. Great stories all throughout. Um, our thoughts and well wishes go out to the family of the young man who passed away, but we also do wish Bernie very well in his recovery.
Quick personal story. Early 90s, before we moved out there permanently, the Browns were having training camp practices at Lakeland Community College. We were out there. My mom, I want to say my mom, my aunt, my cousins, and my sister went school shopping. Um, my uncle got called into work out by your dad in Solon. And my dad and I were just kind of sitting around the house, and my uncle called the house, and my dad he said, "Hey, the Browns are practicing at Lakeland. Why don't you and Michael go?" Bernie Kosar walked past 5 people looking for an autograph, me included, and spent 10 minutes with a kid in a wheelchair. He didn't, and here's the thing. He didn't come back to sign autographs. He talked to that kid and then left the field. Like, okay, he's what's important right now. You guys, you're good. We'll see you again. Obviously, I was living in New York at the time, so how the hell does he know that? It gave me my first glimpse of Bernie as a man. And then, because I wasn't living in the area at the time, come to find out he's from Youngstown and screwed the NFL with the way he declared for the draft so he could play for the Browns.
Right. The boy, yeah, born in nearby Boardman, goes to Miami of Florida, wins a national championship, goes in the supplemental draft, to one of the last. If you think about it, two of the biggest names to come out of the NFL supplemental draft both ended up in Cleveland. One turned into a legend, guiding the Browns to 3 conference championship games. One looked like he was going to be the greatest receiver in the NFL, and then basically couldn't keep his hands off of the pot, and got thrown out of the football for 2 years. And that would be Josh Gordon.
Yeah, there are only 3 players that I ever remember hearing about in the supplemental draft being any good at all: Bernie, Josh Gordon, and that's where Terrell Pryor went.
Right.
So you know what? Not that I forgot about Bernie, but with everything else we were doing, it kind of slipped my mind that we were going to go there. But yeah, did you see the picture of him and Stefanski?
I did.
He looks a lot better than he did already.
Yeah, it's very, very much so. And that's one of the good things about Stefanski. We argue with him as a coach, but he made sure, to do something with Bernie shortly after the surgery before the team left for Las Vegas. We saw him give the game ball to Jim Donovan after Jimmy's return 2 years ago. We saw him and Andrew Barry drive the game ball over the game after Jimmy passed away last season. Um, Stefanski does connect very well with members of the organization. Um, Again, we question his methods, but Bernie does not look he does not look as great as he should, but hopefully this gets him on the right track because we would love to be Bernie, we would love to have Bernie around here in Cleveland for many, many years now that he's in his 60s. I cannot wait for the day where he calls in to Tony Rizzo's morning show and all of a sudden we hear the eclectic sounds of Highway to Hell and then because that's Bernie's entrance music on that show, and all of a sudden you just hear Rizzo going, Bernie! And then just, they go off for 20 minutes.
That I can't wait for that. I need to hear when that happens because I'll listen to it here too. So speaking of on a hopeful note, we will see you guys Friday night, 9 p.m. It's the old 9 p.m. spot for two reasons. One is obviously it's a Friday night. It's Black Friday. I will be traveling home from Augusta that day. No, I'm not going to the golf course. I'm looking at you, Danny. But all right, he's asleep, so I can tell you guys this. We do the Elf on the Shelf. We have not done a Christmas tree for two reasons. One, Jim, you remember my living room's not that big. So this year, the elf is not returning until Black Friday night into Saturday because the elf is bringing the tree. So we'll put Bobby to bed. I will come flying down the stairs, and we have to rearrange the living room in order to put the fucking tree up.
I will be probably doing that tomorrow.
Yeah, I can't do that with the friggin' thing, dude. The elf's going to be on top of the fucking tree. I'm, lobbying for it to be shoved up his ass. But that's because I'm twisted.
No, you want to talk twisted. 5 minutes before we came on the air, it's you've heard of Elf on a Shelf, and then all of a sudden it was pedo in a meadow.
You need to get on TikTok and see some of these Pixar AI generated trailers.
If they're reshared on Instagram or Facebook, chances are I've probably seen them. I will not go on TikTok.
I'm gonna find them on Instagram for you and just start peppering you with them. So we will see you Friday night for our 5th annual Rivalry Week episode, obviously with a big focus on the SEC, which is going to be the biggest sense of chaos, and obviously a big focus on the game, and where hopefully we can get a win. And then we only have a couple episodes left after that. We'll have the following week on Sunday, and the week after that, the 14th, will be was it 14th or 15th?
14th, I want to say.
The 14th, we will have our Christmas end of year free for all. We will do a little bit in the first portion because we are going to have the playoff fully set up by then.
Because
we'll be coming off our
because with Friday night show, we're really only going to be looking at 2 or 3 things. It is not going to be a full long form show. We're going to talk rivalry games. We will talk who might already have their tickets punched to some of the sites that we talked about earlier, and then we're going to recap the Thanksgiving, the 3 Thanksgiving games, and then remember there's also a Black Friday game this year for the first time ever, in the NFL. And then that's really going to be about it. We're not going to have much else to talk about unless something else major comes through the pipe.
Yeah, no, that weekend will also be the big weekend episode will go up. James is going to help me with that because I'm going to just lose my mind. And then with the last 2 episodes, we've got a lot to break down going into December and the end of the year. And when we come back, we of course started the tradition last year. We will continue it this year as we start 2026 with the now 3, 24, 25, 4th annual Wisey Awards. So if anybody sees this, you want to get some recommendations in, we will let you know what the categories will be on social media, and then we will listen to some of it because we have so much fun with this one.
And then we will also, either on the 14th or when we come back in January during the Wiseies, we will tease the massive announcement for the future of the Wise Guys sports show. But again, we've got some time with that. Mike and I have already kind of decided on it. We just are trying to figure out, number one, how we're going to do it, and number two, how we're going to announce it.
Yeah, this is more logistics and marketing is the wrong word, but that's what I'm going to come up with. Logistics and marketing than it is actual decision making. So decisions been made. We will let you know as in as really as hilarious a way as we can. That's kind of how we roll.
So we will see you guys on Friday night. Everybody get ready for bed here. I'm going to go pop on the Switch for 5 minutes until the melatonin kicks in. Get my daily DC Universe and Warframe rewards before I turn in. Everybody have yourself a safe and happy Thanksgiving. We will see you guys on Black Friday. Hopefully you're not beating the shit out of each other, getting to the stores for those early, for those early deals and everything. And let's get ready to talk a lot of football on Friday night.
Amen. We will see you guys Friday night.
For Mike Martinez, I am Jim Cornetti. Have yourselves a great rest of your evening, and we will see you guys next weekend.
See you guys.